Okay, scene 401, take one.
Hey Riley, good to see you.
Same, how are you?
Welcome to Sweat Records in Miami.
Thank you.
Wilson wants to give you like $250 to pick out things that hopefully will inspire you. And,
Perfect.
Yeah, let's start looking at stuff.
Awesome.
What would you say is your top, say, 3 genres of music?
I'd say R&B, and I like 70s, 80s rock and roll.
How'd you start getting into
I
that?
think my dad, was a big influence on that. He was a really huge fan of Led Zeppelin and Bowie, and yeah, I just kind of always had an ear for it after spending a lot of time in the car with him, driving to tournaments and everything. So I'd say it came from my junior tennis days. Yeah, I definitely like the guys that are writing their own music the most. That's like being, as a true artist.
Does Bob Dylan qualify as he?
Of course.
Okay.
Bob Dylan's one of the best artists ever, I kind of think him and Neil Young are kind of 2 names that are thrown around a lot as like a hot debate. It's like Roger and Rafael.
Yep.
There's no wrong answer.
Yeah, Beatles, Rolling Stones.
I like the Stones, but Beatles and the Stones were kind of going for who was the biggest, and then the Zeppelin just kind of did their own thing, which is why I love them. One thing that you can always tell every great artist has in common is how they've withstood the test of time. And that translates even to sports. There's so many great athletes that have been great for 1 year. The Serenas and the LeBrons come by for being great for 20 years. And that's the same way in music. I think time filters through the great artists and the good artists, and there's a big difference.
When you play tennis, do you play more like a jazz, where you kind of are iterating as you go along, or do you feel like you have your game plan and it's more almost classical?
I definitely have my game plan. Yeah, it's definitely well thought out the night before, and don't get to really play along as I go. And I even have a kind of a plan B in mind as well. It's more towards the classical side for sure. Yeah, I like to be kind of precise.
So one thing about music is the business is constantly evolving and changing, and it feels like it embraces new voices.
Yeah.
And I know that you've commented, but you've said, tennis needs to change to adapt and adopt these new voices.
Yeah.
Different types of people.
Yeah, for sure. It's been such a cookie cutter mold, I'd say, the last couple of years, and I always blame the media for it. I think I hate watching interviews of players and hearing the same answers. I mean, they're great. No one gets offended, but they all sound the same. So many articles out there and how they spin words on these guys. They tread so lightly based on a past experience or whatnot, and I think it just frustrates. It frustrates me at least. Just unfortunately, it gets pretty political.
You staying in budget right now?
Yeah, I'm
You're good?
staying in budget so far.
Okay.
Oh, Jimi Hendrix.
Heard of that guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, he has, his iconic playing of the national anthem.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've had sort of an iconic moment of your career?
Mostly when I was young, mostly the junior days are what I hang on to the most, and particularly Cincinnati when I was 10 years old and got to meet Roger for the first time, and I think those are the moments that that really sparked something in me to become a tennis player.
So if you have a roundtable talk and you can pick one musician, one visual artist, one athlete, and one fashion designer, who would you want to have a conversation with?
Mick Jagger. I'm sure there's stories for days. Definitely Philip Guston. Yeah, I wish he was around today to see what's going on. I'd explain what his work means and what it really stood for. An athlete, I'm lucky enough to say, but it's Venus Williams. I've had plenty of dinners with her, and it's just a treat every time. I learn something new every time. The last one is
Designer, fashion
designer. I'm gonna probably go with Chris Van Ash. Every era that he touched has always been my favorite, so I think he's gotta be my top choice. Wow, this is one of my favorite albums. Right here, Rush. Geddy Lee. Yeah, these guys are great. Canadian band. Passage to Bangkok. That's my favorite song on this album. I like this one a lot. This one might be my best purchase yet.
Do you feel like you're a kind of a co-author of your game with like a coach?
Yeah,
Or-
yeah. I would say we both bring a lot to the table. I think I come home from tournaments telling him what doesn't feel great, and he kind of throws out what he saw, and we kind of build something from there. What I love is even when I come home from a great tournament, is he comes back with something new. That's why every week at home, I love training. I love trying to get better because there's something new. We're trying to get better. So I think kind of taking the result out of it is key.
Do you ever play a match and you're like, that was great, I just feel good, I wouldn't really change anything?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, good.
Totally. It's just that doesn't come often. And when it does, it ends that week because the next tournament is a different ball, a different surface, a different altitude, and you restart. But yeah, when those happen, that's like a week yeah. I think it's only happened once in my career so far. So, and I remember it, I think it was actually it was in Dallas a couple months ago or weeks ago.
So I think we're probably hitting around the 250 mark.
Yeah, it's got to be close. We'll start with this one, 2112. This is like one of my favorite rock albums ever. I love Geddy Lee. Marvin Gaye, 61 to 63 singles, classic. Al Green, this one's one of my all-time favorite albums. I might already have one at home, but never enough Al Green, right? Purple Rain, Prince is such an icon. Marvin Gaye, I love Marvin Gaye. Bowie, one of the best, so far ahead of his time. I love hearing him talk about music back then and how it translates till now. This one's one of my favorite album covers too. I mean, it's so artistic, and Electric Ladyland. Bob Dylan, you gotta have him in every record collection. And then The Doors, Florida's Own, Jim Morrison. One of the greats, one of the all-time greatest bands, Mick Jagger, Hot Rocks and the Stones. Can't get enough of the Stones.
All right, let's pay for this business.
Perfect. Thank you. Ooh, slightly over.
That's all right. Approved.
I was close. 286.
There you go. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy your records.
Appreciate it.